Great. So this one is about perspective and how to arrange a picture in the most effective way. So our brain has a way to read material and information and our eyes, and these are tricks that artists use. One of them is the rule of three. So this is an imaginary grid put on a classical painting, and if you put this grid on any kind of work of art, poster, album cover, you would probably find that it was following these rules. So for instance, this table goes on the bottom horizontal line, top of the vase reaches that top, and then you can see these objects occupy single squares. Another example is Z. So obviously we read left to right, but even in cultures where they read right to left, our brain still processes information left to right. This is an obvious way. If you look at this Munch painting, the Scream, those lines are leading you in that direction, and we're focusing on this character. And as a rule, I usually put a focal point or character more to the right than to the left, just because I do find that it's odd and that our eyes naturally want to go to the right-hand side. Also keep in mind that anytime we have eyes, whether it's a comic book or a cartoon or a painting, our eyes will go to those eyes. And definitely in this painting, you can see that's the focal point. And even if you go to that rule of three, it's definitely dead on. It's following that. The eyes lead you to where to go. You sort of see that X happening. You can see the information of this man in the background, all these eyes gazing. Also with arrangement, this is a way to convey emotion. So for this picture, the painting, this girl is at the center, dead center, but she gives a really nice balance to the busyness. There's so much objects, there's so many people in this mirror, that if we didn't have this, it would just sort of take on this abstract painting almost. So the brain needs a focal point, it needs something that's a different kind of pattern to relax and focus. And another example of a really busy artwork is this one. So you can see there's so much going on. And again, this is the focal point. The artist makes that clear because they give us this different tone, this space to relax in, and this rule of three. So I'm gonna look at some of my works that I've done, and we'll see how we can arrange these. So this one's a bit obvious. I have her in the center. Again, it would look a little weird if she was off to the left. She's sort of going in that Z pattern, and then Mr. Mig has the eyes, so naturally we'll be drawn to his eyes, and his eyes usually follow that rule of three too. And then this is another one that I still have to arrange. So again, I'm putting everything more to the right because I'm aware of that Z. And you obviously go to his eyes a bit. They sort of fall on that rule of three, and everything sort of falls to this corner. And then if we look at some famous paintings, we'll see what kind of rules we can find here. So again, this one is following that Z pattern. The flowers are going down. We have the first vertical flowers, then we see that doorway. And that doorway is a very important point, but also the way that it's leading us down. Again, this girl is more to the right. Her dress is flowing to that right-hand corner. And that square, that top horizontal, that white is where you kind of focus on. Same thing, kind of going to that Z. We have three figures occupying a block. Rule of three. Same thing, there's a lot of activity in this right-hand corner. And we have one, so that window's a good focal point. the body, and then the landscape. Eyes, we go right to these eyes. And again, I think these will follow the rule of 3. And it's tilting to that Z. And whoa, these flowers go into the Z. Even this top of the vase that follows that 3. So anytime you're designing something, think about how you're framing it within that horizontal vertical 3 pattern. And I think this is one of the few things that I remembered from school was the power of 3 and the Z. And having that movement of the Z, and then these eyes are such a big focal point, that top square occupying there. This one is a good one to look at because it's a bit more confusing. It kind of breaks the rules. Obviously, you have to know the rules before you can break them. And this is awkward because this artist deliberately put the back of a canvas in this painting. It's not necessarily attractive, but because it's awkward and out of place, our eyes are sort of attracted to it. It's the same way we sort of use shock in art now, but it still sort of follows that Z. Each block has a focal point, so the painter, this girl, and this crowd. Z. This fan is a great focal point. 1, 2, 3. So that point and that point. And movement with the eyes. Even with abstract art, that red bringing us down, you can see that these centers follow that 3. And once you start going along in your art, you'll just sort of do this intuitively. Same thing, that Z, that I, 1 block, center block, Z, and a nice space. She gets her square, a nice breathing room, square, and then you sort of see that eye is a focal point, that hand, the focal point. So the artist wants you to read this information. You're sort of decoding these artworks. This is a bit of a rule breaker too, because it's not necessarily falling here. The dragon's more to the left-hand corner. It's almost like a reverse Z. But because we have the eyes, we kind of go in that direction. And he gets a space, the body of the horse, and the dragon. Dragon, man, horse. I think that's a dragon. Whoosh. That red, her eye is a major focal point. 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. All about that eye. And 1, 2, 3. So the top of his helmet, his head, and his body. Even though he's holding the staff, it's not distracting because it's in the dark and you're more attracted to that light. And this is more abstract in a way, even though you can tell it's a flower field. It has a lot of movement. It's almost just going up. But yeah, this one's interesting because it sort of goes up. But that flower is a focal point kind of there. And those 2 flowers. And then occupying a field, that flower. So you can still see it even in these loose paintings. And even a busy painting like this one, it's going to the life of the party, this guy. And this is a space of calm. Because even though it's so busy, this busyness is kind of at the top block. Then we have our center. And then we have this focal point here. Even with something like this, you can see the way whoosh, the Z, power 3, clearly he's in the middle. Everything's going to that perspective. This flower is pretty standard, but goes down a bit. And the body, the center, and the top kind of have their own leaf center. So it's all composed centered. Mother and child flowing downwards. 1, 2, 3. So those hands are a big focal point. 1, 2, 3. And that eye is a huge focal point. Alright, so just some things to pay attention to. I use this a lot in my own artwork, and it just happens. It just comes to you naturally. 2 rules. Tomorrow I think we'll go over some more with the perspective points.